Hey guys, in this video we'll basically see how to get your own Frappe cloud up and running on your local machine. Um, the video is going to be as authentic as possible, and hope this video will encourage you to sort of play around in Frappe cloud, but not so much that you stop using Frappe cloud. There are like small cuts here and there when the process is taking too long, but apart from that, it's pretty much a straight cut. Hope you enjoy the video.
So as you can see that here I've created my own private network and then I've like created three servers. All of them have a private IP assigned as well as a public IP. Now you may ask, why is it that we need both a private IP and a public IP? Well, these servers talk to each other over the private network, and then press talks to these servers over the public internet. That is your Ansible and your agent jobs and stuff, etc. So these are like stock Ubuntu 20.04 servers. You can easily replicate this on any cloud provider like AWS or your DigitalOcean. Then what you need set up is your name servers. So these are just A records which point to the respective public IP addresses of these servers. F1 is your application, M is your MariaDB, and N is your reverse proxy. And your wildcard is essentially the same public IP as your reverse proxy. So once you have set up this much, you can then move on to the press part. So here I've written a small script with which I had set up press, but I've already set up press here, so we can just start with it. So before we do that, I just need to make sure. So all these servers right on the right that you see basically have my public key in them. So if I can SSH into them directly, and my keys are essentially pasted on my uh, your .ssh folder in your home directory, and this is what exactly the Ansible script will be picking up. So you can see it's a stock Ubuntu server, and we can now just bench is running. We can simply go to fc local 8000, and then we'll be able to log into our site. Now, for the local setup, we'll be following the local setup guide. So that is Frappe Cloud local setup. This will be our guide. We'll be following this. So before we do that, right? There are like few folders we have to create. Let's have a look at the folders we would be creating. So here itself, you can see there are like two folders that's required inside your user home directory. So let's just create those. First, let's create dot search part, and then you go inside search part, and then you create web root. Cool. So that is done. And I believe there were like, so let's install this dependency as well. We don't need Docker anymore because we can do our builds uh, on the app server itself. So even you can install this same dependency using bench pip install, but then that will install certbot dns.53 inside the bench environment. But the way this command is run, you need this in the global path. That's the reason I did like a global bench pip install. So that's there. Now then, let's create two directories inside the bench directory. So let's cd into bench, then make dir dot clones, and then we'll create a directory dot docker builds. Cool. Now we'll be essentially just following the what do you say, your guide. So the first thing we have to do is create a root domain, right? So I'll do one thing. I'll just bring this window over here, and then we'll just follow it as it goes. So first thing we need is a root domain. So here we'll create a root domain, and my root domain is essentially arunmathaisk.fc.frappe.dev, and a default cluster will be default. Now I've already like saved my AWS access key ID and key. So I'll be like entering it behind the screen. So the point that you have to make sure is that the access key that you create should essentially have access to services like your Route 53 and then basically access key to your S3 bucket and so on. That way, the API key can easily function. So let me just paste it behind the scenes. So these grids are essentially what we use at Frappe Cloud. So I can't show it by any chance. So uh, yeah, now as you can see, we have created it. Now there's something called as a TLS certificate, which we have to make sure it should be there. So we can just click on obtain certificate, and it should take some time and create one for ourselves. If not, we can figure out what the error was. So this was before we just created something. We should just give it some time. Okay, makes sense, makes sense. So you have to go to your press settings and go to infrastructure, and then you can put your cert part directory. So if you remember clearly, our cert part directory was inside was basically in the home directory, right? So cd dot cert part, you do a pwd, this is your cert part directory. You can then space it here. Your web root will be inside that. So web root. Then you can put anything. So I'll just put this email. Should be fine. Yeah, this should be good to go. You can just save it. Then now we can go to TLS certificate list. And then now we can click on obtain certificate. This should essentially work. Now let's just refresh. Just give it some time. As you can see, the read count hasn't increased, so hopefully there's no error as such. Just trigger a callback. It takes some time, but essentially it should work. If not, we can debug what exactly happened. Uh, yeah, so you can see here that the TLS certificate has been created. It takes some time. So once you have an active TLS certificate, which will take like a couple of minutes depending upon internet connection, you'll get a valid TLS certificate. Then the next step that you have to do is essentially create a proxy server for yourself. Now let's create a proxy server. The host name will be N1. Yeah, this is our domain. The cluster would be default. Team would be administrator. Your public IP would be this. Let me just cross check. Yeah. Your private IP would be this. Yes, this is the primary domains. These, uh, this is our root domain, and then we should be good to go. So this should, yes, this saved it, and all you have to do is go click here and set up server. So what is going to happen behind the scenes? So the moment we did this, if we go to RQ job list, an RQ job for this is started. What does it do? You can now go to your Ansible playlist. This is a Ansible playbook which will sort of step by step install the packages, make sure everything is up to date, install required dependencies, and basically set up your proxy server for you. So if you go to proxy server list, over here the status is installing. Once this playbook is completed without any errors, the status will change to, I guess, success. If it fails, so for example, if I stop bench right now, it will fail. In such case, you can just go ahead and click on setup server again. It will resume from where it has failed, and hopefully it will result in a success. You can now see that the status of the proxy server is active. That means all the Ansible play steps are completed. What we can do now is go ahead and set up the DB server. So let's go to the root domain. Uh, Now let's go ahead and create a database server. Add a new database server. The hostname will be M1. The cluster will be default. We'll mark it public. The team will be administrator, networking. This is the private IP. What is the public IP here? This is the public IP. Sure. Nothing else is required. Click on save. Cool. Then we go ahead and click on setup server. And this should set up the server. So if you go to Ansible playlist again and drop all the filters, we can see the Ansible setup has started. Now let's wait for this to get over. You can see that the database server has also been set up successfully. Now we can proceed to set up the last server, which is essentially the app server. For that, go to root domain, uh, just click on server. Let's add a new server. The host name will be F1 cluster default. Sure, public title, let it be team administrator. Then networking. Let's give the credentials. Let's just copy this. Private IP. Public IP is. Wait, it didn't copy. Agent reverse proxy. Our reverse proxy is this. Should be fine. Database server is this. Replication will be SSH. Okay. This should be fine. So is it standalone? No, it's not standalone. So I think this should be it. We can click on save and then click on setup server. And this should take another good 10 to 15 minutes, after which we can proceed further. So the app server has also been set up. Now you can go here and enable use for build. So this will now use the server to like build everything, which now takes us to the point wherein we have to fill these fields. So over here, let us copy paste the directories which we created, as well as this is just a redundant field now, but let us go ahead and fill this. So I'll quickly go ahead and fill this. As you can see, I've set all the fields. Don't even bother brute forcing this. I'll just change the creds. And it's not complete anyway. You put the path for the clone directory, the build directory, and then you mention the build server. So this should be it. Now let's go ahead and create an app source. Now we are in the app list doc tab. Let's create a new app. We'll name it Frappe. Sure. Then we'll go ahead, create an app source. Let's create an app source. Branch. Sure, develop. Or you can even put it like version 15. It should not matter. Repository URL. github.com/frappe/frappe. Hope this is correct. Sure, public. That should be it. I'm sure even if you don't do, it's fine. But we'll just let it be. Version. So this will be version 15. Sure. Save. Then actions, create release. app release, uh, come down, approve it, approve the app release, app source. Next, what you have to create a release group. Release group is not there. Let's create a release group. Title is test stuff. Version is version 15. Default public theme is illustrator. In servers, we'll add servers, build server, relevant, define. Apps is where we want it's Frappe, sources, Frappe source, config, dependency should be fine. Save. Now click create deploy candidate. So this is the deploy candidate. As you can see, this group is there. Deploy candidate. Now let's go to build, schedule, build, and deploy. Now we can track the same from the dashboard. As you can see here, you'll find the logs in real time, which is pretty cool. So you can see that this bench deploy actually failed. And if you go to deploy candidate and see the output as well, I think there's a none here. I think that's because we forgot to set the domain to be and the cluster to be default. Hopefully this should solve the issue. And deploy candidate. Let us go ahead and do a new deploy. So in deploys here, all deploys it's scheduled. You should be able to see the progress soon. So I think it's happening. If we wait some time, we can check uh, what exactly is happening. So if you see here in the logs build output, it is building. So the error is no longer there and the image seems to be correct. So I think we should be good to go. This will take some time. I think we can just stay along. So in case of any errors, there is a doc type called as error log list where you can go and see. Uh, so agent job list is where you can track. So this is the job that's currently running. You can check the steps. So the image is being built. The remaining are in pending. So you can track the progress of your bench deploy. So prerequisites is done. Installing Python. So this is exactly a one-to-one mapping of what you see on the front end. As you can see, most of the steps are done. Now it's pushing the Docker image to the repository from the app server itself because we built this image within the app server. It will take some time. I think it's around like 1.52 gigs, so it will take some time. Once that is done, you can proceed. So the Docker image has been published successfully. Let's go and now create a site. So this says it's broken because it's not been deployed yet, I believe. So let's just go here and redeploy. So this should just do the whole process again, but this time do the deploy as well. So you can see now the job for it. So this is what exactly happening behind the scenes is. It's actually going into the server. It's actually pulling the image and it's spinning up the image to basically spin up the Docker container. So we have a bench running as well. So if you go here and click on what do you say? This is a active site, a bench. Now we from here itself you can go create a site. We can say meow test should be there. Click. Sure. You can click on create site and it will now create a site for you. Uh, if you go to the sites menu and you can see your site, and from here if you try creating a site, it's more or less the same process. So you can have your own custom benches, or you can set a bench to be your default public bench. So here you can go to jobs and check the status of what your site is, and similarly you can see the process, everything. Uh, so this is now creating a new site within the container. So this is essentially running Docker exec bench new site commands. Then it will install the app onto the site, your usual bench site app setup. So this will take a minute or so. You can see the job is complete. So essentially we should be able to just go to visit site, and now you can see that the site is active. Log in as administrator, you can just go here, click as login as administrator, and now you have a working site all using Press. So I think this sums up the entire video. You can go to the site doc type and check the site here. You can mess around and have fun. Hope you enjoyed the journey so far. So yeah, happy hacking.